Good evening, everyone. Welcome to 49ers After Dark. We're your hosts, Cohn, Jessie Naylor. Jesse's got some great lighting tonight, and it looks like an extra HD. Do you have a new camera? What is it? Just a new haircut?
Listen, it's neither. It's actually neither. Grant, I have had a whole lighting thing with this room since I've been in here. I've never been able to get it right. And finally, because I have a ring light on my camera, I've got a second ring light now that is sitting above my mic. So hopefully you don't see the shadow from the hat anymore and we're good to go. I think I've got it figured out.
Multiple ring lights was the solution. So the title of the show is, has our expectations for the 49ers changed? We'll get to that. But first, we need to talk about Kyle Shanahan, who we just about buried last week. The thing about Kyle that kills me is like he'll have some real long stretches of bad coaching. And then he'll have a game or a season where it's just so good that you're like, all right, well, clearly you're really good. Can't you just do this every week? Anyway, question for you is Kyle Shanahan still in the hot seat?
Okay, so here's the deal, right? Obviously, we went crazy last week, and we kind of
lost to Colt McCoy.
They did. I agree, right? Like that's a big loss.
Yeah,
it was definitely warranted. But here's the thing: I'm not willing to backtrack anything I said based off this one win either. This one win was fantastic, and we're going to talk about the win versus the loss here in the next topic or two. But the win was fantastic. I'm not denying that. Okay. However, let's look at the reality of the situation. The team is still under 500. The fact that they're under 500, this was the only complete game out of what? They're 4-5. So in 9 games, you've put together one complete game. I'm not willing to take my foot off the gas pedal unless one of two things happen. They either make the playoffs or they start developing these rookies. Those are the only scenarios I'm willing to back off on the Shanahan thing. I want Shanahan to be the right guy for the team. I think it's better for Trey Lance long-term if Shanahan is the right guy. Changing coaches, whether it's year 1, year 3, is never ideal. It doesn't really matter. That being said, I'm not stepping off of what I said about Shanahan based off of one game. We've got a 5-year trend here that I'm going off of. I'm not going to override that with one really good win.
He's 4-5. Look, no one was saying fire him mid-season. That's not what we're saying. When we said he's on the hot seat, we're saying, you're on notice. You have to, what you do the rest of the season will determine whether you should be the coach here next year or not. And I think John York showing up for a practice, whether he said anything or not, kind of drove that point home. Like, dude, you're on notice. Are you kidding? I had to fly out just to watch the quarterback and see this for myself. So how did Kyle Shanahan respond with a quintessential signature, great Kyle Shanahan performance? If he could do that the rest of the season, we would never talk about this kind of stuff. So is he still on the hot seat? Is he still in the hot seat? Hell yeah. And you know what? Maybe that brings out the best in him. If you remember, there was no pressure on him in the first 2 seasons because he had a 6-year contract and everyone understood he was taking over a terrible team. And people were like, give him a chance. But by the time he got to year 3, there was some, he's like, no more. This is your 3rd year and you need to show something. And I think a lot of people were kind of betting against him in year 3. I thought they'd be, I want to say 6-10. I predicted 6-10. There was that Adam Rank famously predicted 4-12.
I think it was.
And the Niners had this underdog mentality, like the first half of 28. Like even when they were 8-0, they were like, no one believes in us. Like, okay, you're 8-0, but that's kind of how they propelled themselves to that status. And then ever since they got to the Super Bowl, they've been saying like, no one's really been questioning them. Everyone's kind of like, you're great, you're great, you're great. And they've had a really tough time proving people right. But last week they had an opportunity to prove people wrong and they rose to the occasion. No one's questioning them right now. Now they have to go to Jacksonville and just, motivate themselves. Can they do it? I don't know.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that, but it's funny, right? It's this roller coaster ride that we've gotten. And every time the 49ers win, everybody comes out and starts retweeting everything you had to say. Well, remember you said this. Do you think Jimmy sucks now? Do you think Shanahan should be fired now? It's like, chill out. Listen, this is not the flex you think it is.
I'm not trying to fire Kyle now.
Yeah.
But I want to see how he finishes the season. I mean, making it from 3-5 to 4-5 does it? I'm like, okay, like all right, extend him just in the contract. No,
right, exactly.
no.
Yes, it was a great.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, let's give him credit, right? This was a game where all the chips were stacked against them. Yeah. You picked them to win, right? That's fantastic. I thought they'd get 40 hung on their head and they'd get mopped. So the fact that they won was huge for this team. The game plan, by the way, phenomenal game plan paired with great execution. And we got to see the best of the 49ers this year. Let's see it a few more times before we start to crown them.
The thing about it, like, it took me until Monday morning to figure it out. Like, it hit my brain real late. But what I figured was, first of all, the loss of Robert Woods was a huge deal. There was no way that Odell Beckham Jr. was going to be ready to really fulfill that role. But also the Niners had this huge emotional advantage. You know, no one was picking them. They were just humiliated at home by the Cardinals. It was national television Monday night. Like, they were going to have this big emotional resurgence to prove themselves. Now all that's gone. They did it. Everyone says they're back. They're good. This is the team we expected. They're going to the playoffs. They're going to beat the Jaguars. They're back in the position they were in 2 weeks ago, where everyone was like, well, they're going to beat the Cardinals. I mean, it's Colt McCoy. So now they're back in that spot where Kyle has to motivate them. It's not the emotions of the circumstance. It's Kyle saying, we have a freaking standard. Oh, it's Jacksonville? Doesn't matter. They're 2-2 in their last 2 games. We need to play a certain way every week. He hasn't been able to do that. So if he could do that this week, that would go a long way to showing that he's a legit head coach. I'm not saying he's not, but that's the next step. Winning a second game in a row. And I think everyone would agree they probably freaking should beat the Jaguars. So do it. You just like you should have beaten the Cardinals.
Absolutely. Yes. 100%. They should win the game. We'll talk about it a little bit more, but maybe it's not as cut and dry as what people think it is.
All right. Here's my question. What was a bigger magnitude for the 49ers? The Rams win or the Cardinals loss? Meaning, was the Rams win bigger than the Cardinals loss was a downer for the 49ers?
Oh man, that's good. Okay, so I have to go. I think the Cardinals loss was bigger because I do. I know. Okay, first of all, I'm on record for saying that Rams win felt like 2
huge.
Wins. It was huge. It was super important because ultimately that was it. Like, that was it for you. If you lost that game, it's over for you. It's a wrap, right? But at the same time, that Cardinals win was a must win. It's a game you should have won. You didn't win. Not only did you not win, but you looked terrible. That loss, in my opinion, was the worst loss in the Shanahan Lynch regime. That win was a very good win, but I cannot say it was the biggest or best win that they've had with this regime. So just for that reason alone, I have to go with that Cardinals loss being bigger in a bad way than that Rams win was bigger in a good way.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, again, I think the Rams win was predictable when you really examined it. I mean, I know you didn't get there, but most people didn't. Most people didn't. But when you look again, in hindsight, it was somewhat predictable. The Niners had the emotional advantage. The Rams lost Robert Woods. The Niners kind of have the Rams number. They beat them 5 times in a row. They just match up really well with the Rams, who apparently can't stop the Niners run game, apparently. Mm-hmm. So you could see it, but so essentially the Niners, we should almost expect the Niners to beat the Rams and maybe to beat them again the next time they match up. I mean, 5 in a row is 5. That's ownage. That's what you call ownage. But losing to Colt McCoy, that hurts, because let's say the 49ers come up 1 game short of missing the playoffs. You just go back to that game and be like, well, that was it. That was the season. You lost to Colt McCoy. Or if they do make the playoffs and they get a 7th seed as opposed to a 4th seed, well, it's that game. That was a freaking layup. It's like in basketball where you get to steal and you're jogging down and no one's following you and you go for the windmill dunk and you break it off the back iron. Like that's what that game was. It was just a no contest and they smoked it. So I have to say the Cardinals lost. They're really going to regret that the rest of the season unless they make it to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, one thing you talked about the emotional side of things, and I did. I looked at that pretty heavily, and that was actually one of the reasons why I went with the Rams, because I looked at it and said, okay, the Rams just lost a game. They're pissed off.
True.
They're adding two new players. They're also very, McVay is tired of hearing that Shanahan's his daddy and all that. So he's got an axe to grind.
That is
You've
true.
got the Donald and Debo situation from last year. Donald's got an axe to grind. So I really actually thought that the emotional side of things was going to favor the Rams. Boy, was I wrong.
Well, the reason I just felt like the emotional side, like the Niners had sleepwalked through half a season. Yeah. What they did was week 1, they came out hot, but from week 2 to week 10, they did nothing in the first half of games. So I figured that was going to end. I mean, you just got humiliated. It's Monday Night Football. Steve Young said there's no dogs on the team. Jerry Rice said there's no dogs on the team. Joe Staley said you got manhandled. Steve Young's going to be front and center watching. Like, they're going to show up. I had a feeling they were going to show up. I didn't realize that the Rams were going to totally not show up. But when they lost Robert Woods, thinking about it for a few days, that's huge. Because now all you got to do is shut down Cooper Kupp. All you got to do is shut down Cooper Kupp. If there's 2 of them, it's a lot harder. Anyway, that was a really, really big loss. I think we made our point. Let's answer some questions and then get back to our show. Niner Bob,
absolutely,
who may or may not be a real person, but says very interesting things. Says it's frustrating seeing Jittery play the best he's ever played, but still be 4-5. He's holding back the future. This is my thing with Jimmy. He's a good quarterback in the sense that he's probably top 15 in the world, definitely top 20. And there's something to be said for that. He has a terrific record. I mean, his resume is good, but he's overpaid. And in a salary cap league, that's important. So he's kind of entering Kirk Cousins territory where he can have good numbers. He can be an objectively efficient, good quarterback, but why are you always 500 now? He used to be this winner, but he's 7-7 in his last 14 games. Like, how come your team isn't winning even though you're playing well? It's because you're making too much money. And I think when you overpay for a mid-tier quarterback, what you get is mediocrity.
Didn't you make the point that when he was winning, he was also, how much of the cap was he taking up? You looked it up.
2019, it was his cheapest year. His cap number was $20 million. It was 8.6%. Check it out on Over the Cap. The 2018, I think he made $40 million that year. It was 15 something crazy percent. This year it's over 13. And that's fine. People say it's the going rate, but yeah, it's if you want mediocrity, if you want a 9 or 10 win season at best.
Yeah, definitely. And that's just it, right? Like here's the thing is Jimmy to me is Jimmy Garoppolo. Like he's no different to me now than he was in 2019. Maybe slightly more mobile. I'll give him that. But really, he's ultimately the same player through the ups, through the downs. I know what to expect from Jimmy. I'm not going to get too high or too low on Jimmy. I think I've been pretty consistent, even on your show, Grant, in saying that I don't think he's been the problem this season, right? Like, Jimmy is who Jimmy is. There's a whole nother.
Let me define Jimmy is who Jimmy is.
Go ahead. Yep.
Because some people feel like you're too hard on Jimmy. The team believes in Jimmy. He's won a lot of games. But who Jimmy is the guy who turns the ball over once a game. I mean, 40 starts, 40 turnovers, and doesn't give you big plays. So for all of his efficiency, his third down conversions, his quick release, his completion percentage, the turnover's coming and the big play isn't. And I don't like that equation. I just don't. So if you give me a guy like the polar opposite, Trey Lance, who's inefficient right now at 21, but the big play is coming and the turnover really isn't, I mean, at least in his history, I'll take that. Now, that's, I guess, different styles, plenty of ways to skin a cat. I can't knock Jimmy. He makes it work for him a lot of the way, but it's just not, the quarterback I would want.
Yeah, and also, like, let's be real. Like, if this team does what they did on Monday where they can run the ball 30, 40 times, Jimmy's going to win the game. But if they can't do those things, Jimmy's not going to win. He may have a good completion percentage. He may even throw for 300 yards, but they're probably not winning that game. Jimmy is a net zero quarterback. Throughout the season, he may equate to one extra win or one extra loss, but for the most part, he's not the reason why you win or lose. That's what Jimmy is. So when I say, this is what Jimmy is, that's what I mean by that.
But I mean, like, what you could say is, like, you can win with a quarterback like Jimmy. He's
For
limited.
sure.
He's not a top 10 quarterback. He's not elite, but it's proven. His record shows that you can win with a quarterback like him. The problem is he's just too expensive. And that's why he's been a 500 quarterback the last 2 years. Look at Mac Jones. Mac Jones is Jimmy Garoppolo. Mac Jones is on a 4-game winning streak. Mac Jones is a viable quarterback right now. You know why? Because he makes $20 million less a year than Jimmy, or more. I mean, that you can win with that. You can win with that kind of a quarterback, no knock. But there's a price point on that. And you can get that kind of production for way cheaper. If the Niners wanted Jimmy Garoppolo at a cheaper price, they could have had that. They're aiming higher. I respect it. But yeah, it's kind of like, I don't know what, in the NBA, if you spend too much on tier 2 and tier 3 players and try to pretend like you're going to be mediocre at best, that's exactly the same thing in the NFL. If you spend too much on Kirk Cousins or Jimmy Garoppolo or Carson Wentz or anyone in that 10-20 range, you might win 10 games that year, but no one takes you seriously. You're not going
anywhere. Absolutely. But also, like, this is something that people should see coming. Grant, I've been doing a lot of extra weird research on this topic recently with quarterbacks. Do you know that Joe Flacco is the only quarterback since 1988 to win a Super Bowl that has never made a Pro Bowl? So the fact that Jimmy's never made a Pro Bowl probably tells you he's not going to win a Super Bowl, especially after getting there and losing one. So it's just the way that this league works.
Ryan and Jennifer Woods said our Monday night team had fun. That has been missing all season. They played as a team, had fun, and played their hearts out. Looked like the 2019 team. You know why they had fun? Because Jimmy Ward intercepted Matthew Stafford twice in the first quarter. That was fun.
Yeah, that makes it real fun. Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. But also, no, Kyle Shanahan had the right game plan. They ran the ball. They played the way they want to play, not the way Kyle. What they did against the Cardinals the week before is just, oh, man. The fact that Kyle can do that and that within 8 days of each other is why
it's so crazy.
It's just so him, right? The worst of him and the best of him within 8 days. It's so Kyle. I don't know what to make of you, man. How do you give us the best and the worst of you within less than, I don't know, man. It's hard. So it's settled. Niners will return to the Super Bowl. Yeah, probably. I guess so. Justin Lomker comes through with the big donation. Thank you. How will Jacksonville approach the Niners this week at home? I personally believe it will be along the lines of the Colts and the deep pass. That being said, what are 3 points of emphasis the Niners need to win this week? Justin, if you will allow us, that's our last topic. We want to build to the preview. I don't think it's time to hit the Jaguars yet, but let's give them something. We promise that's the climax of the show. But what I want to say is the Colts have Marvin Jones. The Jags have Marvin Jones. The Colts have Michael Pittman Jr. Can Marvin Jones do what Michael Pittman Jr. did to the Niners? Because Trevor Lawrence is just as good as Wentz, if not better.
Yeah, I don't know if he can. Jones is good, right? They have some other guys over there. They have Jamal Agnew, Chenault. Like, they have some decent players, but I don't know if any of them can do that to the 49ers. So that game plan might be tough. Also, hopefully the 49ers are more disciplined now. That hasn't seemed to be a problem in the last week or two. So maybe they figured at least that portion of it out, I would hope.
Yeah, I'll give you a little preview for what we're going to talk about later. The Jaguars are averaging 16 points per game. Yeah. So, and they're 2-7. You know, like early in the season when a team is bad, you still have to worry about them because they're not out of it. But once you get to 2-7, you start to look at a team like, how many players in your starting lineup are still giving it what they gave it a few weeks ago? Now, that being said, their defense has been, have you seen what they
just beat the Bills and that with 9-6? That was crazy. Holding the Bills to 6.
Legit. So, Justin, we're giving you a little preview. All right. We're going to get to that in a minute. Jamaican Boy says, guys, if there's anything this win confirmed, it's that you can't trust with a hand. It takes the owner to micromanage you to do your job correctly. Jesse, you have super chats yet? Sorry, I keep missing the show.
No, not yet. Listen, I'm a couple 100 hours away from being able to play again. So I've got the subscribers. I just got to get the hours. So go tap in at Last Second Sports and help me out over there.
Yeah, watch stuff. Put it on, auto replay or whatever. Am I the only one who doesn't know what happened between Debo and Aaron Donald?
Oh, yeah. So it's been a social media battle with these guys. Aaron Donald basically got up after they had lost. I think it was the second game last year. Actually, I think it might have been the first game. And in the press conference said, they asked him about Debo, and he's like, who? So
Yeah,
Debo's like, all
yeah,
right,
yeah.
I'll show you who. Do
Yeah.
you know who I am now? So it was just a social media thing back and forth with them. Trust me, he knows who Debo is now.
All right, back to the show. Did Jimmy Garoppolo lock up the starting job for the rest of the season, Jesse?
Man, this is that it's going to be here all season, Grant, until if Lance takes over. I think a lot of people are under the impression that it's over, right? Like Lance is not starting.
Yeah.
I think most of us are under the impression that if they had lost to the Rams, chances are Lance would be starting against the Jaguars. I'm going to that game. I wish that was the case. I didn't want to lose, but I did want to see Lance against the Jaguars. That being said, I still feel like they're one game away. And it seems like we've been there now for 4 games, but they're one game away. If they lay an egg against the Jaguars, it's it. Like Jimmy comes out and looks really bad against the Jags. They lose that game. Trey Lance is probably starting the next game. So no, it's not locked up. It's getting closer to being locked up. But to me, it's still technically one real bad game away against a bad team. You lay an egg, Trey Lance is probably taking over.
I guess I look at it a little differently. As long as I think he's healthy and in the hunt and playing decently, which he has been, they're not going to bench him. And even though they probably should, because going 9-8 or 10-7 and losing in the first round, again, it's like being an 8th seed in the NBA. Like, what did you accomplish? What is the point of this? Why is this setting you up for the future? That's what they're just going to do. But I think we're just taking for granted his durability. Like, it's Jimmy Garoppolo. And I'm not trying to predict these things, but come on. I mean, he got hurt week 4. Okay.
Yeah.
He missed just 1 game. And now he's been healthy for what? 4 games? Okay. So, I mean, I'm not going to say he's due.
He's due.
I'm not going to say he's due, but like, I mean, most likely he's going to get dinged up again and miss some time. And then Trey Lance will get another opportunity. And if he kills it, then that's that. Like, for example, because he didn't kill it against the Cardinals, although he wasn't really put in an opportunity in a position to kill it. But he didn't do the Colin Kaepernick thing where first start, boom, 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 we win 32-7 or whatever, and there's no question. Let's say, I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo, he got hurt against the Seahawks. The Seahawks are coming up in 3 weeks. I don't know. It just seems like it could happen quickly. It could happen. Yeah. It could happen anytime. So did he lock up the job for the rest of the season? Yeah, until he gets hurt.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point. Definitely don't wish injury on anybody though.
No, I'm not wishing injury on him at all. Is there anything else I want to say? No.
He's always proven not to be healthy. So why would I think otherwise? That's a good point.
Here's what I wanted to say. So Jimmy Garoppolo, 15-19 in this game, right? 15-19, 198 and 2 touchdowns. Is that what he had?
I think it was 189. Either 189, way,
something like hell of a line. Really good line. All right. Jack Hammer pointed this out to me. He's a lot like Alex Smith in 2012 when he went 18-19 for about 230 and 3 touchdowns against Arizona in the desert. It was understated because it was only 19 throws, but it was the most efficient game of his career. It was great. And you're thinking, man, like he's got this. Forget Colin Kaepernick, who they had been splitting time. Next week, what happened? Do you remember? The next week.
I don't.
The next week, they faced the Rams at home. And Alex Smith scrambled, I think, to his left and went down to slide, I believe, and just got hit in the helmet. And he got a concussion, and he couldn't come back that game. And Colin Kaepernick came in and played pretty well. Not great, but well enough. And something happened. Alex Smith didn't pass that concussion protocol exam the next week, and Colin Kaepernick started, and that was that. So
that was it.
Things happen in football. Yeah, Jimmy Garoppolo's coming off a really nice performance against a team that he's beaten any number of times. See what happens next week.
Yeah, absolutely. Real quick, though, while we're on the Jimmy Garoppolo topic, I want to give him a little bit of credit. This last game, a lot of times people equate completion percentage with being accurate. That's not always the case. It was the case on Monday night. He was every bit as accurate as that stat line said. He was putting the ball where it needed to be. He was allowing his players to go out and make plays and run with it after the catch. He threaded the needle quite a few times throughout that game. That was one of Jimmy's actual better games that I've seen. So
it might have been his best because of everything that was on the line pretty much for the team and for him. But the one throw that was his best that I thought was kind of a jaw dropper, 4th and 6 at the end. Now, it's easy to be confident when they haven't touched you all game and you're up like 21 or whatever. But, dude, it's 4th and 6. And if you slow it down, he's throwing a Debo over the middle, right? He throws the ball when there's Debo's just making his break and there's 2 defenders and he throws it in front of – it's like, wow.
That's a good throw.
That's a really good throw. Again, easy to be confident in that situation. If you miss it, you still win, but that was damn good. Nice.
Yeah, it was a very good throw, yes.
Jesse, I'll be at the game also. You going to do anything there to be able to talk to some fans?
Yeah, for sure, man. I'll be at the there's a takeover from what I understand at Dave and Buster's, a day and a night takeover. I'll be at both of those. So yeah.
They got D&B's out in Jacksonville?
I guess, yeah.
So I'm not going, and it's not because I'm a snob or anything. I'm sure Jacksonville's nice. It's just that I don't sleep Sunday nights after games because I'm so revved up. Not that I'm a fan or anything. I don't sleep, and the flight back on Mondays is tough, and I can't. It's so hard. I've also I got to do business class. I got to pay extra because it's so hard to be like dying, like needing to sleep and having to sit like this. You know how they make you sit in coach? If you move back, or you can move back like this, like that much. Yeah, and then they get mad at that. So I'm gonna have to, but I don't want to do it. It's a long flight, and they're probably gonna win, and it's Jimmy Garoppolo. So I'm like, you know what? If it was Trey Lance, I'd go, but it's not. So I'm just gonna.
Can I tell you, Grant? I got so screwed on a flight. This summer. I was going to Shasta, so flying from Florida to California, basically. Yes. I had to sit back row, stuck between 2 people, and it's the back row to where it doesn't recline.
Yeah,
I'm 6'2", 230 pounds, Grant. Like, I am a big guy to be stuck in that position for 5.5 hours. That was terrible. That was the worst flight experience I've probably ever had. So I get it. Yes.
If the Niners make the playoffs and Kyle brings Lance in for a Super Bowl run, will he be a genius again? Yeah, absolutely. The genius
for sure he will. Yeah, sure.
Grant is a hardcore fan. Can't sleep before games. I can sleep before games, after games. And I get worked up not because the Niners played a game. It's because it's like my biggest day of the week. You know, it's my day to perform. Anyway,
do you before you come out of the tunnel? Do you have like a sign that you slap and get all?
Yeah, absolutely. That's right. Leave it all in the field. Okay. All right. This topic is called Trey Sermon. I'm going to bring it like this. So the Niners beat the Rams, and after the game, they ran the ball 44 times, which is a season high. After the game, Kyle Shanahan said on Thursday when he presented the game plan to his team, he said the goal was to run 40 times. George Keel said when he heard that, he stood up and gave a standing ovation. This is what the Niners want to do. It's their identity. It's what they did to the Packers in the NFC Championship game. Great. You ran the ball 44 times. So easy, right? 27 carries for Elijah Mitchell, 10 for Jeff Wilson Jr., who kind of made his debut, his rushing debut, and 5 for Deebo Samuel. This is a perfect breakdown. And you're thinking, why did it take this freaking long? How did it get to this point where you were 3-5 and you're like, oh, right, this is how we play? Well, Jeff Wilson Jr.'s back. And so now you have a situation. I'm trying not to use that word because my dad pointed out how bad and vague it is. But yeah, now you got a situation where you got 2 running backs that Kyle trusts in Mitchell and Wilson. Great. That's, a situation he hasn't been in all year. Mostert went down. Wilson was out. He only trusted Mitchell. So, okay, great. Now he has 2 running backs he trusts. The Niners can do this heading forward. But Mitchell's hurt again. He has a broken finger. He didn't practice today. And he gets hurt a lot. And running backs get hurt a lot. And if Mitchell doesn't play in this game against the Jaguars, are they going to go back to what they did before that, where they don't run the ball that much? And now I want to talk about Trey Sermon. Jeff Wilson Jr. came back, and now you ran the ball 40 times. Jeff Wilson Jr. is great. I love Jeff Wilson Jr. He ran the ball for like less than 3 yards a carry, and he had some blocks. You tell me Trey Sermon couldn't have done that? That doesn't make any freaking sense. There is a role in the offense, the Jeff Wilson Jr. role. That should have been Trey Sermon all season. And maybe the Niners, we were all focused on, I know I'm going on a rant here. I'll give you a second.
No, do it. Yeah, go ahead.
We were all focused on Brandon Ayuk being in the doghouse. Ultimately, wide receivers aren't going to make or break this team. It's a run-first team. The fact that the Niners have buried Trey Sermon for no reason is a big reason they are where they are. Okay, he's a good player. When they were down bad and had no healthy running backs and he had to play a bunch against the Seahawks, I have the stats right here. Hold on.
Was that like 20 for 102?
19 for 89, 4.7 yards a carry. I mean, I'm not even sure Jeff Wilson Jr. could have done that. But in so many of these games, like the goal was 40 carries. They'd only coming into that game, they'd only had one game where they'd eclipsed 30 carries. And that was against Philly when Jimmy Garoppolo had like 11 quarterback sneaks. Okay. So this is no reason that it took this long for the Niners to figure out they needed two running backs. And the fact that they buried Trey Sermon for no good reason is, I think, a very big reason that they have so many losses right now.
Absolutely it is. You're 100% right. Okay. The team has 4 wins. 2 of them you broke 30. By the way, what did Shanahan come out and say? And he's said this many times in the past. If we run the ball 30 times, we win that game. Why? Why, Shanahan? You're telling me that a 6-man front, this was his excuse for Arizona. The first time we played him, which, by the way, Trey Lance was in the game, not Jimmy Garoppolo, we saw a lot of 6-man fronts, and so we were ready for that. We were ready to pass. And then when they showed it to us early, by the way, they only showed it to him 4, maybe 5 times that game. Not a lot. Then we decided to pass a lot. Okay, cool. Were you executing? Absolutely. The fumbles killed you for sure. Either way, your true north is to run the freaking rock. Why are you not running the rock?
That's when they execute. Right.
Always. And not only that, Grant, 9 times out of 10, that's how they get their big plays. Their big plays don't come from a deep passing. It comes from the run game. So why are you abandoning the run?
Sorry.
No, dude, it's so frustrating. And the fact that
also
even
Jimmy's
in
the
that
best
Cardinals
hander
game,
offer in the league. It's elite. The left hand, right hand. I mean, it's just great. It's so good.
So good. I mean, it might be better than his quick release. It really is. But you look at it, Sermon only carried the ball 1 time in that first Arizona game. Why? What is going on? This kid is not that bad. Just like Ayuk wasn't that bad. He is good enough to be ahead of Hasty in that depth chart, even if you don't think he's quote unquote ready. I don't know what's going on with Sermon. That one worries me. You moved up to get this kid. He's already removed all 49ers, everything from his social media. That is a terrible situation.
And again, like you, it's not just that you traded up for Trey Sermon. You drafted 2 running backs. You signed Wayne Gallman. The whole idea was, dang, we can't be caught with our pants down at running back. We can't be caught decimated at running back. Like last year, where we're starting Jerick McKinnon. As long as we have a couple quality running backs, we can beat anyone. And that was the whole point this offseason. And they made these moves. They didn't keep Wayne Gallman. They buried Trey Sermon for no reason and lost a bunch of games because they passed too much, because they didn't run the ball enough, and they didn't execute well. Yeah, they don't execute pass plays that well. That's not who they are. Why is it not who they are? The offensive line. Start right there. That's where everything starts in football. And the Niners offensive line is built to do what they did against the Rams, not what they did against the Cardinals, period. It's not about Jimmy. It's not about the receivers. Jimmy's fine. His pass protection is not. Absolutely not. And that's by design. I mean, they cut corners at the offensive line. They bring in run blocking specialists. Fine, then run the damn ball. Run the damn ball. And they did. Good job. But hand off to here's what I want to say. So they figured it out. But Mitchell might not play against the Jaguars. We don't know. He's a broken finger. He's had surgery. So if he doesn't play, are they going to fall back into – is Kyle going to fall back into the same poor play calling habits that he had the first 8 games of the season? Because he shouldn't, because he has Trey Sermon right here.
Grant, yeah, that's a worry. That's certainly a concern. It definitely is. Now, here's what I'll say.
Yeah.
He trusts Debo. He trusts Jeff Wilson.
Yep.
But what if Jeff Wilson doesn't stay healthy? There's a lot that goes into it.
They're running backs. And you have this healthy rookie third-round pick you traded up for, who's averaging 4.5 yards a carry, and you're like, nah, he ain't ready. Well, okay, well, hopefully you don't lose more games trying to get him better practice habits or whatever, because they haven't even really articulated what it is about Trey Sermon that has buried him so far. It won't say. They're like, oh, well, he's just, we don't need him. Oh, you don't? Okay, we'll see. We don't need him right now. We're good.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Grant, but wasn't Sermon the really the only main back in both the Seattle game and the Green Bay game? Because I thought it was the Green Bay game first, and they actually didn't utilize him really at all. And Juszczyk was the one that started out that game at running back above an actual running back. I don't know what the deal is. I have no idea. All I know is that the first time he touched the ball, he did get hurt, but that was an explosive play, or as Kyle likes to call it, explosives. He gave you an explosive, Kyle. So why are you going away from this kid? I don't understand it. I really don't.
And again, we were so focused on Ayuk in the doghouse. I'm not sure that really cost the Niners any games because Debo was so dominant in carrying the passing game. But this is a run-first team. And the fact that the Niners have buried a quality running back who's healthy while other guys have been out and injured is really strange. And I think this is the doghouse thing that people should be focused on. It's weird, it's arbitrary, and it has cost the 49ers games. It could cost them more in the future if Elijah Mitchell and or Jeff Wilson Jr. misses any time. But those two together, great tandem. Kyle trusts him. That's great. What if one of these guys misses time? They're running backs. Elijah Mitchell seems to miss, every third game. We'll see.
Yeah. I mean, they I'm sure they would rather play hasty.
I think Niners lay an egg next week trap game. Well, it's definitely a trap game, and they've shown the ability to lay eggs. So they have to show like a standard. You talk about a standard. It's easy to get up for a Monday Night Football game against a rival when you just got humiliated. Like, it's not easy to get up for the Jaguars on a 10 a.m. game when you just won and everyone says you're good. That's hard. Do it again. Good teams can. Because good teams don't need Jesse and Grant to rant about how, what I dropped a hard F-bomb last week.
Two of them.
F-bomb. I mean, good teams don't need that. Just do it. But the Niners are much better at proving people wrong than proving people right, as I said earlier.
That's very true.
Will Greenlaw start over? We're going to.
You're so good.
We're going to talk about that. Shire has looked really good to me. Thank you, guys. Should we just go there? Hold on. Yeah, we can do that right now. How about for you? We'll go there right now. Al-Shire versus Greenlaw. Greenlaw is coming back. They opened up his practice window. Assuming he can play this week, who should be the starter in the nickel defense next to Fred Warner?
Okay, so I think it should be Al-Shire. I do. I think he's earned that spot. Greenlaw's fine, but overall, I really like what Azeez Al-Shire brings. I think he's pretty decent in coverage. I think he brings that extra something. And we're going to talk about Hufanga as well, but both of these guys, you look at that Niners Harbaugh team, they had multiple guys that'll thump you on defense. You come across the middle, you're paying for it. Even the 2019 Niners didn't have that guy. You don't have that hard-hitting guy that's going to give receivers alligator arms over the middle. Now you do. You have two of them. Al-Shire will send your helmet sideways, and so will Hufanga. Those guys are difference makers because of that. And there's nothing better than when a player makes a real hard hit on somebody, gets up, flexes, and the defense rallies behind it. It makes the fans excited. It gets the players excited. He brings that added element that Greenlaw also doesn't bring. So I'm rolling with Azeez Al-Shire.
I was going to say Greenlaw, but it just occurred to me that I think the reason I say Greenlaw is because I've interviewed Greenlaw. They make Greenlaw available to the press. And I like Greenlaw. He's a very personable person. I don't think I've ever interviewed Azeez Al-Shire. I don't think and this year, like, you don't really get to request people anymore. You don't get to just walk up to people in the locker room because it's closed. They just bring people out. They have never brought out Azeez. Maybe they did in training camp, although I don't remember it, which is messed up. What is that? Why can't you? They would never. You figure, they might want to have an article or two about him in the paper. But anyway, I don't know. That's not really an answer at all. I'm kind of filibustering. What I'm saying is that I think they're both kind of good, and I'm not trying to choose sides. I know some people are like real team Greenlaw or team Alshire. I think they're both cool. So what I would do is if I were the coach, I wouldn't pick. I would just be like, I still like Greenlaw, but Alshire is good too, and I'm going to work Greenlaw back in, and they're going to split time. That's what I would do. I would just ride the fence.
There's nothing.
They're both decent. Neither one's great.
Yeah.
Just play both. Who cares? And then the base defense are both on the field anyway. So whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. They're both on the field. I just, like I said, I like that juice that Azeez Al-Shaair brings.
But Greenlaw did have a pick 6 in his one game of the season. So I mean, I'm not, and you're not supposed to lose your job based on injury. So let them both play.
Unless you're Jimmy Garoppolo, then you should lose your job based off injury.
Oh, funny because it's true. Is that it? No. They are saving Servant for when one of the running backs gets injured. Well, that could be this week.
When? What? Where?
No, but
they were down. They were down to just him and didn't run him.
And in that loss, they ran the ball 11 times. Like, this is something that shouldn't have ever happened. All right. Have our expectations for the 49ers changed now that they've beaten the Rams, who are a quality team?
No, not for me. I mean, my expectations have kind of remained the same. I basically said that they had to come out, win one of either the Rams or the Cardinals. I expected it to be the Cardinals. So definitely after that horrible loss, I thought for sure they would lose to the Rams. But outside of that, I said going into that Cardinals game that this, to me, looking at the schedule, if this team's as good as everybody says it is, they can still put together a 10-win season and make the playoffs. Well, you lost to the Cardinals. That was terrible. Yeah. But you beat the Rams, so you still split those two games. So really, you're in the same position, just a different path. So
yeah, good point.
No,
everyone expects the Cardinals to lose to the Rams. So
yeah. So no matter what, you're in the same position. I expect the same things. You are in the driver's seat as far as deciding if you get to go or not. You get to play the Vikings. You get to play the Seahawks, and you get to play the Falcons. You win those 3 games, chances are you've set yourself up for the playoffs. You don't get to play, the Panthers or the other team. But outside of that, like, you're really in the driver's seat here. Go out and win those games. No, my expectations have not changed. They either need to make the playoffs or they need to play these rookies more. One of those two things, I'll call it an okay, successful season. If neither of those things happen, I'm burying Shanahan.
Yeah. My expectations for this season was 10-7 when the schedule came out. 10-7. And then when Jason Verrett went down week 1, I thought 9-8. So when they lost to the Cardinals, that's when I was thinking, like, man, my expectations, like, did I oversell them at 9-8? I was starting to think, like, damn, like, this team, they're going to lose out. They just lost to Colt Freak. They're going to lose out. This team has no pride. Something is very wrong here. But okay, they did. That's not what happened. I figured out they're going to beat the Rams. They're going to get their pride. They do have some championship pedigree, NFC championship pedigree on this team, and they're going to show it. So I'm back to thinking, I had this team pegged 10-7 best, probably 9-8, probably 9-8. And when they don't win 10 games, they'll be like, well, we should have beat Arizona that one game. Yeah, that's right. So no, my expectations haven't really changed. It's a decent plus team. It's flawed.
Yeah, absolutely it is. Yeah, and that's the thing, right? We look at their record, the record of the teams that they're about to play, and you're going, oh, they should win those games. But you kind of got to remember who the Niners are. They are not entitled to win any of these games. They're going to have to go out and earn each and every one of them.
They're not consistent. They play down to their opponents. All bad things. But they own the Rams. That is – I saw a stat that Sean McVay is 50-24 as an NFL head coach, but 3-6 against Kyle Shanahan, which means he's 47-18 against everyone else. That's wild.
25% of his losses have come to Shanahan. That's kind of crazy.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Who should start if both are healthy? Talanoa Hufanga, Jaquiski Tartt.
Okay.
Hufanga, Jaquiski Tartt.
Okay, so I like Hufanga for the same reasons that I like Azeez Al-Shaair. Again, he's a thumper. I love that. He also has some coverage breakdowns. Jimmy Ward does a good job of kind of covering some of that up for him, which is fantastic. However, Tart right now is probably the better player. I think that if he's healthy, he should probably edge that out and earn that starting spot. But I still want to see Hufanga on the field. Maybe some dime. Maybe he comes in nickel. Also in special teams, he's a good special teamer, I believe. So he's going to get burned no matter what. But I think is right now Tart is still the slightly more polished safety. But then there's that injury thing. Like, how many times do you get to be injured and come back and just take your crown back? Like, I don't know. Hufanga's pretty good. So I gave you a kind of a no answer, but the same thing that you said with the linebackers. I could go either way on this one.
Okay, I have a different take here. Let me see if you know where I'm going with this. All right. So Tart is a very solid player. He's a really solid player, solid vet. You could maybe argue he's better than Hufanga right now, although I don't know. We'll see. But he's injury prone and he's not going to be here next year. So the 49ers, despite how good Jaquiski Tart is, and he's good, I think I'm a big Jaquiski Tart fan. I know there's a lot of Jaquiski Tart haters out there. He doesn't get enough credit. But injury history, probably not going to be here next year. You might as well just owe it to yourself to at least see if Hufanga is going to be the starter next year, right? Does that remind you of another position on the team? Does that kind of remind you of another?
I mean,
the same logic would apply.
It's ringing a bell, but I can't put a finger on it, Grant. If
the
you could
Niners are
spell
going
it
with
out.
Hufanga for that reason, it's like, right. Yeah, I get it. I totally get it. And that's what we've been saying at quarterback. Come on. Like we've been saying. Now Jimmy's healthier than Jaquiski Tart, but it's similar, right? I mean, at this point, I was like, we need to see what we have with Hufanga. But the reason they do that is that there's no such thing as a strong safety controversy. They can do whatever the hell they want to do with strong safety. But at quarterback, it takes on this life of its own, and it's bigger than the team. And I think they just don't want that kind of negative whatever energy or whatever. But it's the same situation.
Well, listen, they've kind of proven their track record right now is that they're going to go with the veteran who's not going to be here next year. They did it with Jimmy. They did it with Kirkpatrick.
Now at strong safety. So great.
That's true.
Good step. Now maybe think about that at other positions.
Yeah, right.
Quarterback.
Right.
Throwing it out there. Like, is Talanoa Hufanga better at strong safety than Trey Lance is at quarterback? I can't see that.
Yeah.
I can't see that.
I agree. Listen, you know I'm Team Trey Lance. So.
I can't. All right. Let's talk about this Jaguars game.
Okay.
What are the keys of the game? And let's predict.
Okay. So let's answer the gentleman's question earlier in the show. I'll do it in the three keys that must happen in order for them to win. So first of all, let's lay it out again. Is this a trap game? Somebody else's comment? Yeah, 100% it could be.
Definition.
You've got a short week. You're going cross country. You're playing the 10 a.m. game. You're not on prime time, and you just had the biggest emotional win of the season.
And it's Jacksonville.
This is the definition. Against a bad team.
And not just a bad team, Jacksonville.
You're right. Yeah.
Everyone knows Jacksonville sucks.
Yes.
Always suck. They suck. They're Cleveland of the South.
Absolutely. So, yes, this could be a letdown. I think it's probably going to be a little bit rough early on. I don't expect a blowout by any means, right? But I will say this. The three keys to the game for me are run the ball. Clearly, we just talked about this for almost a whole show.
Yeah.
Run the hell out of the ball. Get to that 30 number. Stop the run because they have James Robinson, who's a pretty good running back himself. And you've got to be opportunistic on defense. You have to get a couple turnovers. At least one. You cannot go a whole game without turning the ball over and expecting your offense to not turn it over. You have to be able to get a turnover or two every game, really, to ensure that you're probably going to win that game. So for me, get a turnover or two, stop the run the ball, you win this game. I'm going 27-17 49ers, but it's close through the whole first half.
Ooh. We disagree in certain senses, although I'm picking the Niners. But the one key to the game for the Niners, and I think it's very important, and I only have one key to the game for the Niners. They win this game if they don't turn the ball over. If they turn the ball over any times, they could lose. If they turn it over twice, they'll lose. If they turn it over once, it's a coin flip. If they don't turn it over, they win. So it's that serious. They need to have a very conservative game plan and not turn the freaking ball over. Because here's the thing about Jacksonville. What are they? 2-7? Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're 2-7. They stink, and their offense is averaging 16 points per game. That's woeful. But their defense all of a sudden is really good. Not just kind of good, really freaking good. So they had their bye week 7. Since then, they've had 3 games. They played Seattle, Buffalo, Indianapolis. Against Seattle, their defense gave up 229 yards. Total. 229 yards. The next week against Buffalo, they gave up 301 yards and won. 6 points, 301 yards, won. Last week against Indy, they gave up 295 yards and lost. Like, these are really good numbers. So over the last 3 weeks, in terms of yards allowed per game, they're ranked 3rd in the league. That's a hell of a freaking defense. So I don't expect the Niners offense to just go off. Like, Indy has a better offense than the Niners. They have a better quarterback than the Niners. They scored 23 last week. The Buffalo Bills with Josh Allen scored 6 against this Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, they got Josh Allen, who I would have drafted over Nick Bosa, and I still think is a flat-out stud, and Miles Jack as well. So I think the 49ers, really, they just have to score 17 points to win the game. You score 17, I think you win. Because, I mean, this offense, I like Trevor Lawrence, but damn, this offense sucks. So I'm going to say 17-13 Niners. But if Jimmy Garoppolo gives the ball away, I mean, they could lose. They could definitely lose. That's not just Jimmy, right? It's George Kittle, Deebo Samuel. I mean, if they pass the ball 50 times, they're asking for that turnover to basically score. Asking for it.
Listen, if they don't run the ball, I mean, minimum 25 times, they're not winning this game, I don't believe.
25 is not enough. 35.
They probably need to be at 30 plus. Yeah.
Yeah, 35.
I'm with you.
Because, again, you're going against an offense that you don't need to respect. Run the ball. They're not going to score a lot of points. You have a good defense. They suck. Run the ball. If you don't, you're asking to lose, man. So keys to the game is run the hell out of the ball. Don't turn the ball over and score 17 points. Score 17, 20. 20 would pretty much do it, I think.
For sure. 20. Yeah, listen, I don't see the Jack, but again, that's where the turnovers come in. Right. You start turning the ball over deep in your own territory.
30 points. Yeah.
Right.
That's right.
So it can get ugly. You're right.
Yeah. So that's the only thing. Juan says, at golf event, Jimmy G asked about Sermon. JG likes Mitchell better. Well, dude, you need 2 running backs, dude. You need 2. And it's so cool that they got Jeff Wilson Jr. involved in all this, but it's like he didn't do that much. How hard is it to get someone to average 3 yards a carry or less and have some like jet sweep blocks? It's not that hard. It's not that hard. Did Trey Sermon? I don't get it. I don't know. Anyway, that's the show. Jesse, perfect. I think it was the best show of all time.
Of all time ever?
It was an all-time, the best show of all time.
Okay. Listen, I think the show where we lost complete control was probably my favorite, but this was up there. I agree.
That was a good one, too. That was a good one, too.
Listen, if anybody's going to the Jaguars game, I will be at a lot of those events, the Niner Takeover events. So definitely you can DM me on Twitter, whatever. I'd love to meet you guys. So anybody going to the Jaguars game, I'll catch you there. And anybody not subscribed to Last Second Sports, come on over. Show me some love.
Justin Fields had his one and only breakout game against us. Why do I feel like it's Trevor's time this weekend? Trevor's good, dude. He's probably better than Justin Fields, I would think.
Listen, I feel like this defense at times has been a get-right defense for many quarterbacks. Also, Jimmy G has been a get-right quarterback for a lot of defenses. Either one of those could happen this week. So I'm not putting anything past him.
And not to get too negative, but if Jimmy makes it past Jacksonville, which their defense, as I just said, their defense is hot. What's Jimmy's history against Minnesota? What's his history against Seattle? That he's got a nice little stretch coming up.
Yeah,
Can't
that's important.
Any running back be Cook or CMC in this system? Apparently not.
Not Sermon, apparently. They don't believe it.
Not Sermon. Love the show, Grant. Let's go Banana Hands. I think the entire Niner fan base calling him Banana Hands brought out the best in him.
You know he heard it. Come on. Do you have him with you?
No. I almost brought him to the game, but I figured they were going to win, so I didn't. Next time at a press conference, I'm going to raise my hand with the Banana Hands. Hey,
you're going to lose your credentials like that.
Wait, real quick. Oh, I'm sorry. It's my oven mitt. Guys, thank you very much. That's it for this week. We'll be back next week, and tomorrow I'll be, doing the regular stuff with the regular folks. So I'll see you around.